Hey guys, Kevin here for the series premiere of Flesh and Bone, Episode 1, Bowling Through. And I know, of course, that this hasn't premiered yet, but you guys can pretty much see us on any platform that there is. It's on Stars On Demand, it's on the Stars website, I think it's even on the Stars YouTube channel. Bottom line is you can check this out anywhere, and the cool thing about this is, of course, this is only an 8-episode series. It's a limited series for 8 episodes. Which I heard that Stars did because the show cost so much money, so they had to limit some things, so they made an 8-episode series, which I think is fine. They did it with The Missing, but The Missing got a second season, so I feel like this has a good chance of doing that too. But what they are going to do is after the first episode airs on Sunday, every episode will be online, so I will most likely be reviewing every episode early, well, quote unquote early, if you want to go in times of when they air, but I'm going to count this as a show that's online because they're putting every episode online before, so let's just get into this episode. I was really looking forward to this premiere, I have to tell you guys. I was really looking forward to it for two reasons. One, the writers of this show did some episodes of Breaking Bad, which that alone is enough of a reason to see it. Even though I've seen only a few episodes of Breaking Bad, what I've seen of it is amazing, and I've heard they've never had a bad episode. Two, this really seemed like Black Swan, the TV series. And you guys know how much I love Black Swan. I think it's an amazing movie. Probably one of my favorite movies, honestly. And I was really hoping they could tackle it as a TV series. I pretty much went into the show, though, not really knowing anything. And I came out a bit kind of mixed with this show. What's in Flesh and Bone that's great is great, honestly. What's good in this show is great. I really, it's really, really good stuff. However, there are some things in this show that are just a bit weird and they're very strange. They can fix it, but there definitely are some problems I have that I will get into. However, let's just get into this episode. First of all, the intro to this show is amazing. I love the visuals. I love the psychedelic feel of it. It really goes with the show perfectly, and I love every shot of the intro. And the song as well, Obsession, is so haunting, and I love it. I think it's great. So we then see that Bowling Through, I'm assuming they're going to do this every episode where they show what each episode means. We see that Bowling Through means to force through an unsafe situation to extricate, however you pronounce it, soldiers from danger, which I didn't know this is important, but especially the end of this episode, I think really shows its importance. Now, the way this episode starts, I really love because there's so much uncertainty in what's going on, and it's very ambiguous, and it hooks us in right away because we see Claire. She's at home, basically our main character, Claire Robin. She's at home. Her room is filled with many ballet dolls. Her car keys, we see empty hangers, with basically implying that she's moving away because they have nothing on them. She sits in her room. Someone's trying to come into her door, just like open her door. We don't know who this person is. They open the door. She gets out through the window, and this just made me so intrigued. I'm like, okay, this is awesome. We don't know anything about this girl. I can't wait for this because clearly there's something going on here. We don't know what it's about, and I love that. So she gets out through the window, runs out. She's then on a bus. She moves her hands as if she was dancing. We then see her auditioning for the American Ballet Company. While many applicants want to be called on, many are really bad. By the way, guys, I forgot to say, the first 14 to 15 minutes of this episode are amazing. I love the first 14 to 15 minutes. The middle got a bit rocky, but then the ending really was great. I will say that. But there are a lot of things in between that I think are very strange. So many applicants are really bad, and then we meet the director, Paul, who Paul is my biggest thing with the show and why it's weird. I'll get into that. Not yet, though. Paul was fine here. I'll get into when I have problems with him. He says if he calls their number to step forward, he calls 115-127-136, who he almost calls until Ivana, the other head of the company, says the girl's hips are too wide, and I love this because think of this girl. I mean, this girl's dream was basically just crushed just by saying, oh, we're not going to pick you. And they did it so casually and just so quickly. That's how it works. I mean, if any kind of business, you're just a number to them. I've said this many times. When you audition for a Broadway show or something like this, you are just a number. That's all you are. Until they actually hire you, you're just a number, and you can just see how much this girl was crushed. So He calls 131. Claire waits to be called, and finally her number 122 is called. He says if he called their number, they will stay to work at the bar, and says thank you to everyone else. He asks to bring in the next group, and Ivana starts right away. Ivana is very cutthroat, you can just tell. She's practicing the bar, and Claire notices the emotional torture that Ivana puts them through. She literally yells directly into a girl's face and makes her cry, and you really see the emotional pain that these girls go through. I mean, they yell at them, they get them to really be pushed hard, and it really takes, someone that's really defenseless to put up with that. It's really crazy, definitely. So I think definitely that, one of the show's goals is to show the dark world of ballet. They really did that well here. So the girl says she's sorry. We see everyone else wait in the hall. And Claire then rips off her toenail because of her shoe. And this I love because this stuff they're doing is very dangerous. And you don't really know why they would be doing this because they can get hurt really, really bad. I mean, this could really hurt them. When I say really hurt them, I mean like hospital. I mean, that was crazy when we saw that. And this is not self-harm. She ripped off her toenail because of her shoe. And she's called next, and you see how much pain she's in. She has to basically hide this when she's called up. And then Paul says that she's 21. He's very confused because it says that she was apprenticed to a Pittsburgh at age 18, took a leave of absence in the first year, and hasn't done anything since. Which obviously is very strange for a girl that wants to pursue this career. And she starts to say something, but he says he does all the talking. He says he's disinclined, suspicious. No one walks away from that opportunity at attitude or injury. And he wonders what they were to tell him if he was to call. She says he should, and he dismisses her. And she tells him it was a family issue and says to let her dance. And Ivana says she liked the other girl from before. She says just one, and he says impress him. So she does a dance, which we don't see. I thought was interesting. We actually didn't see Claire's dance. Definitely very interesting stuff here. We don't see her dance. He watches her, and we just see how, obsessed he is with this. He definitely longs for perfectionism, and that's something I loved about Paul right away. It's just how professional he is. You can tell he wants perfection. So basically, she then goes to the receptionist, and then we see, by not seeing this dance, it also gives us a bit of uncertainty. We don't know if Claire is going to make it in this American Ballet Company or not. That's how you keep a viewer on suspense, and I love that. So basically, we see her wait outside, not knowing what her fate's gonna be, and Paul does tell her that he is excited to have her with them, and he knows that she won't disappoint him, and it's a really great scene. And the receptionist then says she has a Pittsburgh address listed and asks what her address is now. She says she doesn't have one yet, and we are to assume Pittsburgh is probably where she ran away from, and she says they can help her get some company or accommodation. She goes up the stairs, gets ready to go into her new apartment, and then she's approached by this homeless man who really scares her. His name is Romeo, and he asks her if she needs some help. She says she's got it. He says she's very skinny, and she has to have her bag. He asks if she's a ballerina. She says yes. He asks if she has any drugs. It's just oxycodone. He says once she gets her to count him in, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. So then she goes inside and meets her roommate, Mia, who is literally the most casual person ever. She walks in, Mia's having sex butt naked. I mean, how more awkward can that get? Your roommate is having sex right then and there, not even knowing she was there. She didn't even know she was coming in. She's like, who the hell are you? I mean, that was pretty crazy. So she tells her she can have the couch or till she can get a bed or she can squeeze in with her, but everyone tells her she snores. She says if she snores, then they can even each other out. She asks her if she snores. She says she doesn't know, and the couch is fine for her. She asks where she should put her stuff. She says she can have the shelves and asks if Romeo, the homeless man, is bringing up the rest, and obviously Claire didn't think that Romeo was a good guy, and she tells her that there's nothing to worry about. She says sometimes she gives him money to help her carry groceries when she's sick of the stairs, which is almost all the time, especially if you rehearse for 10 hours straight for a performance. It's a nightmare. Claire tells her that her bag has all of her stuff, and she asks if she's okay. She says it's been a very long day. She asks if it has to do with blood sugar and tells her she has cookies if she needs them. She asks for ice since she lost a toenail, and Mia asks how many times she auditioned, and Claire says it was just once, and Mia is very transfixed about this because obviously she auditioned 3 times, and it's very rare for someone to audition once and then just get through. So clearly Claire is very good. Again, we haven't seen her dance, so we don't know how good she really is, and I love that. So She asks where she's been dancing. She says she is taking class. She had a nice situation at her studio. If she cleaned it at night, they would let her study. And Mia asks why she suddenly just left. And Claire says it was just time. Her brother Bryan had just shipped from Afghanistan, so it's his turn to help at home. Meaning he was probably the one yelling at Claire to open the door, which I like the way they're very, subtly connecting the dots. They do it very well throughout this entire episode, very subtly telling us that's what that meant, that's what that was about, and I definitely really like that. I mean, I like it when shows don't fully tell you what's going on and actually force you to listen to dialogue. Very good stuff there. I really like that. So she asks what Bryan is like, and she says most people think he's good looking. She says it has nothing to do with blood sugar. She's just really glad to be there. Mia says it will be fun. She asks if she wants her to fill her in on everyone. Claire says yes, and Mia says everyone is going to hate her. She just tells her that she tells her that right away. So Claire then sleeps on the couch and does something very strange. She gets books out of her bag, which is the only thing in her bag. She piles them on top of her. All of the books, though, are books she loved as the little girl. And of course, I've heard of, sleeping coping mechanisms, like sleeping with a stuffed animal or a pillow, but nothing this strange. I mean, this was just very odd, and we don't know why Claire does this. And again, it's something that's very interesting. So then we get to the weird stuff in this episode. Everything going on with the board in this episode felt like a completely different show. It felt very strange. We see Paul, who at this point was pretty normal, and he tells Jessica, who runs the board with him, to stop naysaying. She says she's not naysaying, she's saying, and he just doesn't like hearing it. He says he's sick to death of all these constraints. He feels confined, he can't breathe, he's nauseous, he complains about not having champagne, and he doesn't want wine, and this entire scene is just portraying Paul as this giant babyish asshole. I mean, he is acting like a child in this scene, and it's hard not to laugh at him. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. At this point, I was so close to laughing at Paul's over-the-top, performance. It really is really bad here. She has a person that planned has a lot of conditions that Paul's clearly very upset about. Jessica says they have, and it's not that the story's bad. I like the story here. Basically, the person that's running the board, the chairman, has planned a lot at this party, and Paul doesn't like the conditions, and basically he really wants to change it. He doesn't want these conditions. He doesn't agree to necessarily what the chairman wants, and he says they will serve Verve Kligot, even if he has to serve blowjobs on the corner to pay for it. He says he's telling her to ask Brusso, who is the person that's running it, for money, for he loves, first day, the dancers are full of possibility. Some dancers talk about how, and basically, that was just a very strange scene overall. There are more of them. So some dancers talk about how upset they are that Paul chose Claire when she hasn't even been there for 3 years. And Claire, the party, basically, he's throwing for, is for their company's future. He says to shame him out of his bad taste, which shouldn't be too difficult. She says to give her a tutorial. He says, Brousseau wants to make a splash in the ballet world, and to just make sure he makes it with champagne. She says she'll just pull the money out of his ass, and he says he needs to go over the roster before he adjusts the troops, and he says, meanwhile, can hear everything they're saying, basically, so that's what happens with that. So, basically, a bunch of people are gossiping about Claire. She can hear everything that they're saying, and she walks by. They talk about how much they hate the perfume that Paul gave her, and they just really don't like her at all. And Mia's friend Daphne that comes by, and she catches her up on where she was, and Claire comes by Daphne, asks who she is, and Mia refers to her as Bambi. Mia does not like Claire. In fact, she might even be a bit intimidated by her. She says she hopes she's gone a week. They welcome her. Mia introduces Claire to Daphne. She tells her she's a demi-soloist and a spoiled brat, and they should see her apartment. Mia says she loves Daphne because she's not afraid of speaking her mind, and she's the only one that she trusts, and a naked woman then walks by. Claire offers her a tampon. I don't know what the hell that was about. That was a strange scene. They welcome her to the fray. They say try not to fit in unless she wants to spend her whole salary on shrinks. Daphne says Mia is batshit crazy and a total whore. She says she's not. She says she'll see her in the Shark Tank. Claire then gets ready for rehearsal. The pianist named Pasha arrives, who basically the pianist here, and so does Ivana, who gets them all up. And Claire then meets Kiira, who can tell she's new. Kiira is definitely very experienced, and she then meets Ross, a male dancer there, who tells her that there's nothing to worry about and they're just messing with her. Pretty sure he's gay. He's flirting with this guy Trey. I'm pretty sure he's gay. I think he is. At first thought it was gonna be love interest, but then he seemed gay, so I'm not gonna say he is, but it just seemed like he was. So Paul welcomes them to their new season. He says he's thrilled to have them all there, and at his mercy, he's convinced it will be their most celebrated season to date. He says he's put together a stunning repertoire that will astonish them and their devoted audience. He says he has some of them in mind for particular roles, and some are already decided. He then stops them and walks through the routine. He then tells them to get into groups of 5. As Claire dances, her phone begins to ring, and her phone's ringtone is Yankee Doodle Dandy, and he asks whose phone that is. Claire apologizes and says it won't happen again. Paul kicks her out, but then tells her to wait and tells her to come over to him. Remember, guys, we haven't seen Claire dance yet. It's really interesting stuff. So he says he wonders what the hell he was thinking when he scraped to the bottom of the barrel and brought her on. He has to see the Adagio, and she dances for him, and she's really good. Like, you can see she's really good, and he says at least she remembered it. Pasha then starts playing Yankee Doodle Dandy. That was great on the piano, her ringtone. Everyone laughs. He tells her to go back and asks for the first group. They start the Adagio. Claire sits on the floor and hits her foot with her shoe. Probably just because she's really upset about what happened. So Paul then says that she's brilliant, and again, Paul's the actor, the guy who plays Paul is extremely over the top in this scene. In fact, it was really hard to take him seriously. Ivana says she is full package. Jessica asks if he's planning on giving her a feature. He says they're going to cut Giselle since he feels Claire will make them, and Jessica says he can't change the season. He tells her she can't tell him what to do. She says the board won't accept the changes and the season is a done deal. He says everything and everyone and this line was so cringe where he's like, everything and everyone here is mine, and you need to understand that. And I'm just like, why are you so over the top? Like, I get that Paul is very passionate about ballet, but there's a difference between passionate and just downright fucking batshit crazy. And that's exactly what Paul is. He's very unlikable because of that, and kind of, really made me like a bit like, I don't know about this. I really didn't like those scenes. Luckily, they don't stick. I will say that they don't stick. They do eventually change. But right now, at least, I thought this was definitely very strange, what was going on here. So, basically, we then see that Claire then looks to the city to calm down. Daphne says she needs to grow a pair and get some or go home. She then goes into the bathroom, puts some cold water in her face, says Kiira does cocaine. She tells her she got lucky today, and Claire says she knows. Kiira says she's not special, that the only reason the Adagio went well is because it went with how she was feeling. And she says anyone can do that, and she wonders if she'd still be there if she had to skip through a grand Adagio, basically Allegro with a big kiss-ass smile on her face. She walks out. She then gets a text message and misses calls all from Bryan, and we eventually realize why she's doing that. Paul then makes a call as to who we think is his boyfriend, Eduardo. They have sex, and as they're having sex, Paul says he's a man of vision. He's undeniable. He gets what he wants when he wants. Again, a very cringeworthy scene here. He tells the board to call Brousseau, get him to lunch tomorrow, tell him it's urgent, and in the locker room, all the girls want to buy tiny dresses for the gala. Claire asks if they can get out of going, and they can need to go as eye candy for the men who can't resist them. Kiira, however, clearly does not want to go. We don't know why, but she doesn't want to go. Claire is then approached by Paul, who says she is his debutante. He says tomorrow is her night. He expects her to be the belle of the ball. She will dazzle and enchant, and he wants everyone's eyes on her. And Claire then asks Daphne for a favor. So she goes to her apartment. She says it's gorgeous. Daphne says she didn't have to fuck anyone for it. She asks if she needs shoes. Claire says she needs everything. She finds a dress for Claire to wear, but Claire doesn't think it will fit. She gives her another one. Daphne says she's running late. Claire asks if she has a day or something. She says something like that and tells her to tag along. She asks her to keep a secret. Now, as weird as this was, I thought this worked really well. I actually really like this, I have to say. It's not one of the weirder things for me. I think this worked really well. Everything weird was pretty much in Paul's plot. That's really everything I found very strange here. She takes her to a job where a man named Danny waits. He asks Claire if she's working too. She says she's just a tourist. She asks if the mobster's there. He says to stop calling him that. Says he's probably in his office. Daphne works in a strip club, and it's a very interesting scene because this is clearly something that Claire's never seen before. Because Claire asks if she just dances or does other stuff. She says the girls are in charge. Some make arrangements for her outside the club, but management frowns on it. She goes to see her boss, Sergi, and Sergi is everything I wish that Paul was. He's not over the top. He's a very friendly man. And he introduced him to Claire. He says he's enchanted to meet a ballerina. He says he cannot tell her the joy for him that is ballet. She says Claire's gonna hang out while she does her thing. He asks him if that's cool. Sergi says she's always gets what she wants, and I thought that was really funny. So Daphne gets ready. Claire says she wants to watch. She goes in front to watch, and at first seems very uncomfortable, then seems kind of actually transfixed. Like she really is just, um, amazed at what they're doing. She's never seen something like this before. So she sees all the women pleasuring men. There's this guy that comes on to her. She throws a glass in his face and cuts him. Sergi asks if she's alright. She says she should go find Daphne. She sees all the women pleasuring men, clearly is startled by it, and everywhere she sees are naked women pleasuring men. She goes home, stands naked in front of a mirror, and pretty much just, realizes that she's gonna have to do this because, if women can do this, she needs to do this, and I definitely thought that was very interesting. So Paul is with Brousseau, telling him about the change he wants to make for the season, and at first Brousseau is not okay with it, but Paul does get him to eventually agree, and basically tells him that, you're going to see this girl, you're going to love her, and that's basically what happens with that. So at the gala, Claire, and this scene between Paul and Brousseau was definitely really good. They definitely toned Paul down after the scene. After the scene, I was completely fine with his character. It was just everything before it was very strange, but here I thought he was fine, and after that, I thought he was fine too. So then we go to the gala, and Claire is very hot. This is the first sign we know that Claire is actually quite a hot woman. I'm going to say that right now. I mean, I didn't notice that at first, but in this scene, just holy shit. Look at her in that dress at that gala. Just holy shit. Um, Jessica starts the ceremony and introduces Paul as well, and introduces Brousseau as the chairman of the board. He gives a speech, and they start a dance, and Paul basically says to Claire, so far so good. They have his attention, and now they need to see what else she can get. She says she's in the dark. He says if she plays her cards right, she'll be in the spotlight, and asks if she's ready for some choreography. He says he's going to have a chat with Brousseau and his wife, and when he leads his wife away to visit principal dancer Ross, she will lead to pick up the conversational slack her future, and if writing on what happens next, and she asks what happens next, he says if by evening's end Brousseau isn't imaging his cock between her thighs, then she's done something wrong, in which case he'll be disappointed. He says she's going to have a spectacular life. He says to meet him at the studio at 8 tomorrow morning, ready to work, and you feel like he's pushing her so much. He's asking her to do all this stuff that she, it's just brand new to her, and I really like seeing that. So she starts to plan. She walks over to Brousseau, but trips, and he says he noticed she tripped. She also broke the heel of her shoe. He says not to worry about the tie. Her foot is a concern. She says they've had worse, and he helps her walk and introduce herself to him. Brousseau's a really nice character. I really like his character here. Because, Brousseau's just really into the classic stuff, but he's willing to listen to Paul, which is something I definitely like. Paul's just kind of a spoiled brat. So he says Paul mentioned her to him, and he says he wanted to see for himself. He says Paul's invited him tomorrow, and she says she heard. He loves Gazelle. He says he does. However, it seems there's much more excitement surrounding her, and she says everything that's been happening really fast. She's only been in New York for a few days, and she feels lucky, and she can't tell him how long since she's felt that way. And he says she's young, and she says she should go. He says he does not want her to fix. He actually does want her to fix the tie, and she leaves, and the next morning she gets up. Mia asks if she's missed a memo. She says because of course, she's going in early. She doesn't know why, and you can tell that Mia's very suspicious. She then goes outside, gives Romeo an orange, and I like this bond that they're going to have. I think Romeo and Claire are going to have a really nice bond. She dances for Paul and Brousseau. Mia watches very angered, just knowing that should have been her. There definitely is going to be a rivalry between these two, and I like it. I have to say, I really do like it. I don't think it's like Black Swan at all, because of course in Black Swan, it was kind of more like the White Swan versus the Black Swan. I think that's a good way to deviate from the two. They're definitely doing some stuff that Black Swan didn't do, which I like. So after the dance, Brousseau is impressed, and Paul then brings her to the mirror, says she needs to understand power, her talent, and beauty, harness it, love it, use it, and kisses her shoulder, and never forget she's his. And Mia and all the girls, they stare at Claire. They're probably just jealous of her, and basically Russ then tells Claire he's sorry he didn't have a chance to talk to her last night. Paul comes in, says he has a wonderful news that they are shaking up things, stepping into the new, and tells him he's commissioning a brand new ballet. They all applaud because obviously they're looking forward to it. What they don't know is that Claire is obviously the star of this. So as Claire watches Mia have sex with some stranger, she gets a call, and it's Bryan. And this reveals pretty much everything we need to know about that first scene. It's very scary, honestly. It's quite a haunting scene. He asks where the hell she is, and that their dad has been very worried. She says she left him a note. He says it was a chicken shit moves and asks if she's okay. She says she's fine. He says he didn't even forget to see her. She forgets she's ballerina. She just left it there. And, we think it's just a brother caring for a sister, but then we see he's jerking off as he's talking to her. So clearly has some sort of obsession with her, and I'm only to assume that he's probably raped her, and that's why she's left. That's what I'm assuming is going on here. Because why else would she leave? He says he misses her, to tell him where she is, and she doesn't want to. This would also make sense as to why she was so horrified by what was going on in the strip club, and just any sign of sex she saw, she was horrified by. Probably because she's had to have sex with her brother and things like that, which again is very cliche, but I think they handle it in a very good way. And he says he misses her, tell him where she is. She doesn't tell him, and that's how the episode ends. So this really introduced a very interesting plot point. I definitely really like that. And overall, guys, I did think this was a very good premiere. I definitely really did enjoy it. My only complaint, like I said, is Paul, who I just felt was a very over-the-top character. Let's talk about the acting, though, because I do want to talk about the acting overall, and who I think is really good on this show. First of all, I do not agree with people saying that the show lacks, a story. I don't think it lacks anything. I think it, adds to the story. I don't think I don't think it really adds anything. I think I don't think it really, a lot of people are saying that, oh, it has, no, drama to it. It has a lot going for it. I mean, all these girls are now jealous of her. It's going to be very interesting to see where they go with it. However, by far the best thing about this show is Sarah Hay. Not only because she's hot, but I also really commend the show for getting people that are, actual ballet performers and turning them into actors and actresses. Most of them turned out very well. Sarah Hay especially. She's very well she does a very good job with having to have that emotion, showing the trouble that Claire's gone through, but also is a very good dancer and does a very good job with both of them. Definitely, she was very good in this show. I thought she was overall a very good character. I also really like the character of Mia, whoever played her. I don't know who played her right now. I can't really think of who played. Actually, let me go on IMDb because I'm not going to use Wikipedia. They actually have who everyone is in the show. But Emily Tyra as Mia is great. I think she does a very good job. She's a very good character, and it's a very interesting relationship that these two have. It seems like Mia likes her, but then it seems like she dislikes her. I really feel there's going to be some rivalry between these two, and I'm looking forward to that. My biggest complaint, like I said, is Ben Daniels as Paul. If he acts like he does in the second half of this episode, I'll be fine with that. But the first half, he was extremely over the top to the point where it was funny unintentionally, and I really hope that that doesn't continue because I want to really like his character. I want to see him as this powerful force that's just really obsessed with ballet, and that's all that matters to him. And you do see that, but when he goes on rants and starts acting like a child, I can't take his character seriously, and I really want to be able to. So hopefully he gets better as the episodes go on. I think he's going to, but we'll have to see. A lot of times in first episodes, there are jitters, there are those worries that they might not go as well, so I can understand that. Hopefully he gets more comfortable into the role and isn't as over the top as he was in this episode. Irina Devarro as Kiira. I want to know more what's going on with her. She seems like a very experienced dancer. She's going to be a very interesting character. I really like Damian Hurin as Romeo. I think he's really good as well. As is Rachel Diane Weiner. I'm not only saying that because she liked my Twitter comments. She liked my Twitter post about Flesh and Bone. She is really good. I think everyone in the show overall is very good. Minus Ben Daniels, everyone does a very good job. The directing in the show is great. The screenplay especially is great. I think they really show the cutthroat, dark world of ballet, show how manipulative it can be, show how it can emotionally affect someone, how it can physically, affect them. They did that all very, very well, especially in the cinematography. The cinematography at times really feels like you're on drugs at points. I mean, especially the sex montage. That was pretty insane, but this is all in Claire's perspective. Whenever we see Claire, it really is her in her perspective, and I definitely really like seeing that. They did a very good job of telling a story of, this really troubled girl and us not knowing what she's going through. And we definitely don't know everything she's gone through. I feel like there is more that we're going to find out as the episodes go on, but I definitely think it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that. The score to this show is really good as well. Sometimes it's very cheesy, especially in the Paul scenes, but I thought for the most part it worked out very well. The editing was fine. The episode really went by fast for me, I have to say, guys. I was into it the whole time. I really, even the Paul scenes that were like, annoying and I didn't like, I thought they were still very interesting and I really did enjoy them overall. This is also a show where I really don't know what's going to happen, and I like that uncertainty. I don't want to know what's going to happen, especially like the opening scene. It really seems like one of those shows that's going to get very addicting. I don't think it's going to be Sense 8. It's not going to be Daredevil, but I do think this is going to be a very addicting show. I could definitely see myself finishing this show very quickly. I already really do like it. I just hope that some of those scenes, just a few scenes that cause me to not absolutely love it. Had those scenes been done a bit differently, I would have absolutely loved this pilot, because other than that, this is a great first episode. I really loved it. Also, that quote, "bowling through," worked perfectly with what Claire is going through. I mean, I'm going to read it over again. It means to force through an unsafe situation to extricate soldiers from danger. And of course, she was in an unsafe situation with her brother. She ran away because her brother clearly put her in this unsafe situation, probably raped her, and we'll have to find out what's going on with that. But that's basically my review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys saw this first episode. If you guys haven't, definitely check out this first episode. If you haven't, then why did you even watch this review? But I will see you guys in the next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Girl Meets World, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.